2024, and this is a regular meeting of the Avon Lake Board of Municipal Utilities. I'm Tim Rush. I'm the acting chair this evening. With us this evening from the board is Mr. Tony Abram and Mr. Dave Rickey. We have two that are not here, Dana Schnabel and John Dwanzik, and without objection, they are excused. With us here tonight from the staff is Rob Monroe, the Chief Utilities Executive, and Greg Yernich, the Chief of Utilities Operation. Also from legal counsel, we have Tony Coyne from Manager Gavin, and we also have in the audience this evening two council members, Amy Gentry from Ward 3 and Rob Shamir from Ward 1. Thank you for your attendance. We do have a quorum this evening, and it will require 3 affirmative votes to pass any motions. We do voice votes here except for executive sessions, which require a roll call vote. There is no executive session scheduled for this evening. The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Mr. Monroe, I believe there may be some amendments to the.
Yes, I have one correction. The third paragraph under last sentence should read, Mr. Abram also stated that chicken manure can be used by residents for fertilizer. That is the only correction I have.
Okay, so without objection, with the amendment to these minutes, they stand approved. Next item on the agenda is public speakers, up to 3 minutes. Does anyone have any comments this evening? Is there anyone out in Facebook land?
There is not.
Okay, thank you. We didn't get into how we are live streamed, but we can, we are live streamed on
Our Facebook page and our YouTube,
All right.
also YouTube channel.
All right, thank you. Next item is correspondence. Mr. Monroe.
I do not have any correspondence passed along this evening.
Thank you. Next item is expenditures on the goldenrods. Do we have a motion to approve those?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I move to approve Avon Lake Regional Water expenses from June 14th through June 27th, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I don't have anything.
I got a quick question.
Right. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
item, I just, for clarification here, Fund 701, item number 45. I just see a Lowe's bill for $900, okay? My question is, I'm not questioning what we bought. I'm just questioning that we have good controls over those type of expenditures that are taking place, that you guys feel comfortable that we have good control over Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, because we, from time to time, we see some of those on here. And I know I buy a lot of stuff at those places. I just want to make sure that we feel we have good control over those credit card purchases that take place at those facilities.
Those are, yes, we do. And those are actually not credit card purchases. We do have accounts receivable accounts.
Okay.
Lowe's accounts receivable is one. It's actually we partner with the city on that account. So it comes itemized for our expenditures. They are reviewed by the manager, also Greg, and overseeing operations. So yes, those, we have good control on those.
Very good, thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, there's a motion. All in favor of approving the, say aye.
Aye.
They are approved. Next item on the agenda is Manager Gavin Legal Service, Mr. Monroe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, the our approved not to exceed amount for legal services with Manzer Gavin on the Cough Aquamarine litigation matter is $250,000. With the settlement agreement of this matter, it's necessary for us to authorize a new not to exceed amount so that we can pay the final invoices. Because we were working through the settlement agreement, Manzer Gavin and I had discussed the outstanding invoices, and we said we would just hold those until everything was finalized. So we currently have a total of $29,354.04 of outstanding invoices. So we would request the new not to exceed amount be set at $279,354.04.
Thank you. There is a recommended motion. Mr. Ricky, would you like to make that?
Yes, I move to authorize the new not to exceed budget amount for legal services related to the Cough Aquamarine litigation at $279,354.04.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Abram. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, next item, reports and updates on project reports. Mr. Urinich.
Thank you. For the power plant update, pretty much they're continuing with the same. They're demolition on the north side of the road, working their way from the east towards the west. In the coming weeks, they're going to be doing that implosion. They're going to be in contact with us when they get a finalized date, so that we're all aware of that. For the ETL design services, there's no update at this time. For the water filtration plant improvements, they have finished their work that they can do now, cleaning up the second floor where the existing chemical feed is, all of the redundant equipment that's unused right now. They have removed that, gone through and done some concrete work. So they're in the process of ordering a bunch of the larger equipment, the pipes, and getting that. So they've been kind of doing some of this work around the site, things that they can take care of right now. They're also finishing up the site prep for where the chemical feed unit will be situated and the additional filters. They've gone through and done some cleanup in those areas as well. For the SCADA communication upgrade,
Do you know, they're doing the washing down the boilers. Do you know what's happening with that wash water?
That I do not. I know they were going to be using some water for dust control. They've already gone through and removed any of the asbestos materials and done the cleanup as far as the asbestos abatement. As far as any additional cleanup of that water, that area is, at least as I've been told, has been cleaned of the asbestos and any chemicals of concern.
We can make that inquiry though to see if we can get any further information.
Mr. Ricky, you have a question?
Yeah, I have just a question on the water filtration plant improvements. Do we have an inspector on site now?
Yes.
From
HDR.
HDR, okay, I mean, but they're on site already, doing and watching what's going on. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got a team site that, we get daily picture updates. and
Okay, I didn't know if that had
reports, so-
started. That was my biggest thing. I know we were gonna have them, but I didn't know for sure that they had already been on site, that we're at the point where we need to have people watching these guys. So I was
Yep.
just curious. Thank you.
Continue.
For the SCADA communication upgrade, the fiber optic converters that had been ordered, those have been installed, programmed, tested. Changeover to those was seamless. As I had spoken about a meeting or two ago, we had met with members of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. They had done an analysis of our physical security features. One of the things that they had to offer is a cybersecurity assessment. As part of that communication upgrade we're going to be constructing a new server room. We were interested in meeting with them ahead of finalizing that design, just to make sure that all of the best practices that our consultant had and what we felt was necessary, if we can have them review our plans before, that'll just be an added measure of, I guess, security, to make sure that what we have planned meets with all the current best practices and really help us make sure that, we get it right. So we were working on scheduling a time for them to come out, review all of our other cybersecurity practices, as well as review our plans for creating that server room.
Sounds good. Thank you. Any questions?
Do you have any plans for like a failover if anything should happen to that server room?
We do have multiple, I guess, SCADA systems in place. We have the one we operate off of, along with a backup. We have additional, I guess, off-site backups
That's
of
what I
that.
was wondering, okay.
And we also regularly practice the olden days of operating without SCADA.
Okay.
From time to time, we'll go through and not literally, but basically pull the plug and say, okay, what do we do now? So that if that ever happens to our staff, they're not caught like a deer in the headlights, that they know what to do and run the plant manually. And I can say from experience, it was not always the most pleasant thing, but it really does force you to know how to react to those situations.
Just a follow-up question. So the system, the SCADA is sequestered from the rest of the operation fully?
We have an IT network and we have an OT network. The OT network does not touch anything, done purposefully, so that that's isolated from, I guess, the outside world as much as possible.
As long as we're talking about it, can you talk about some of the presets on some of the equipment so that it cannot exceed certain things so that we don't get overloaded with chemicals and stuff?
So within the PLCs, programmable logic controllers, there are limits for each of the equipment as far as anything from pump speeds, dosages. You know, we have ranges that we can operate within, but we would never want either, even an accidental, if the operator is in a hurry and hits a button too many times and tries to enter 999 instead of 9, the system will not accept that. We have safeguards within each of those operating systems to ensure that we cannot operate in a way that would be unsafe. On top of that, we have online monitoring equipment that monitors the chemicals as they are in the water, so that we've got both what's calculated, real-time analysis of what's being fed. Other safeguards we have, that's why we require them to make rounds of the plant and visually take the numbers off the counters on the chemical feeders, so that they're not just assuming what the computer is telling them is what that piece of equipment is set at. You get a manual verification that something is not overfeeding or underfeeding. So we try to have as many of those safeguards in place. Just, you know, it's nice having all that information being given to you by a computer, but the hands-on seeing it for yourself is valuable as well. And that helps alert you to other problems. Just the sights and sounds. If an equipment sounds different, they know to have that investigated more thoroughly, that it might be coming up on a failure. So we have as many redundant safeguards in place as we can.
If I may ask a follow-up question. So are all the replacements and spares, they are from OEM, so they don't come from multiple sources where you could have a backdoor coming in through viruses installed on systems? I mean, that's that backdoor component. Do you guys specifically buy from the supplier that your SCADA is from, or do you buy from multiple suppliers?
So we have a third party that we have worked with on the SCADA equipment. You know, I guess the PLCs and the hardware come from the manufacturer, and then all of the programming is done by that staff. And we've had the same company for years, and to be honest, the same employee at that company.
Oh, that's perfect.
So-
The reason I'm asking is because
Sure.
it becomes problematic. In the oil field, one of the things that we make sure is that we utilize the same OEM all the time. We don't go out to multiple sources on that specific component.
Hey, Greg, when they're doing this programming in their work, they're on site doing this, they're not doing it over the internet.
Correct. They have to be on site doing it because they do not have a way to log into that equipment remotely.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Next item is the CUA report. Mr. Monroe.
Thank you. I do have a few miscellaneous items for housekeeping. First item, I have information item for the board. Upon completion of his first year with Avon Lake Regional Water, Sean Hutcherson will move from a step 1 line maintenance technician to a step 2 with an effective date of June 19th, 2024. The second item is similar. Upon his completion of his first year with the Avon Lake Regional Water, Shannon Plum will move from a step 3 line maintenance technician to a step 4, an effective date of June 26th, 2024. And the last item I have, information item for the board, we recently had a resignation of our labor position in distribution collection. So we conducted our interviews, and tentatively, we would like to welcome Tyler McReevy to the team. Tyler is tentatively scheduled to start on July 22nd, 2024 as a laborer step 6. And that's obviously pending background investigation, successful drug and alcohol screening, and physical. So again, we would like to welcome Mr. McReevy. And I guess I just have one more item just for the public, is this is our last meeting before our summer recess. The board will reconvene August 20th with their next meeting. And that is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Ricky.
Yes, just a quick question. You know, we've been talking about personnel and hiring. Where do we stand now in open positions now? We've done quite a bit of hiring and had a lot of success in customer service and our financial analyst, and now we replaced the laborer that left. So where do we stand as far as personnel right now?
We have one more position in what we call customer service /
Another one, yeah.
financial,
Okay.
background because of some of the, based on our work session that we had a couple months ago with some of the changes that we need to make with our finances. We need that, we're continually looking for that position that's going to be a backup for Mr. Logan.
Gotcha.
But other than that, fully staffed at both of our wastewater and water facility. We will have later this year, we will be looking to hire an operator at the water reclamation facility, and that is anticipation of a retirement in 2025. So we want to make sure that we get for our succession planning, we have someone in and trained prior to that departure.
And do you attribute some of the success we've had in hiring by the lack of not having to deal with civil service all the time? Does that help, you think?
Yes, that has absolutely been a positive step, in the right direction. When we negotiated the current collective bargaining agreement with the
Right.
union, that was something that we
Negotiated.
agreed on with the union, and based on feedback from staff, they feel that they are pleased with the way things have progressed with that. And I know that, there are a couple of these individuals that we've hired in the last year that, they want to been in the industry for 20 plus years and is licensed in water and wastewater, but never wanted to take a civil service test.
Right.
Because he was already licensed by the state.
Sure.
So yes, we feel that has been a good.
Well,
good
that's a big plus, because we've been battling that for some years now, trying to find qualified people on a timely basis. So I applaud you for getting that done and getting us to a point where we're really fully staffed. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next item on the agenda now is members' reports and miscellaneous. And members have
No report to nation.
Mr. Ricky.
I just will report that I did attend the Building and Utilities Committee meeting on Monday, June 24th. And there was nothing that really pertained directly to us. There was one question brought up, and maybe I posed this to you, Mr. Moreau, and maybe you know what the zoning is for the coal pile property. Is that all industrial at this point?
I believe it is. Yeah.
Everything out there is industrial, and that'll have to go through planning commission and get rezoned as needed. Is that what the plan would be?
Well, we're purchasing the property, like our designations and zoning is government institutional.
Okay.
So like this property, our water tower
So if
property.
we buy it, it automatically changes?
I don't know that it automatically
Okay.
changes. I would have to confirm that
Okay.
with planning and zoning.
And then I just want to, there was another item that was brought up that at that meeting was commercial industrial zone area. This goes back to the pond that's out there on Lake Road. We've talked a lot about the pond that we know what, we do not own it at this point.
Correct.
The pond, but the pond is going into a storm sewer and out to the lake, correct?
Correct.
That was all approved through the current owners. That was all approved through the EPA, as was my understanding, correct?
In regards to what?
That we could discharge, that pond water was able to be discharged in the fashion that it's currently being discharged.
What we were told by EPA is that they did not consider it an industrial waste anymore. It was a Class
Okay.
2 stormwater, and that falls on the city
Okay.
to approve plans for connection to stormwater system. The city engineer, Chris Howard, had a conflict of interest because his company, Bramhall, was the one who did the design.
Mhm.
The then mayor Zilka had asked if Jack Gadar, as a professional engineer, would act as the representative for the city to review those plans, and he did, and he approved those on behalf of the city.
Okay, making it clear, we have nothing really to do with that, except we lent them our engineer to avoid the conflict of interest.
Correct, which we have done on other instances where
But we
where
personally,
developers had
we,
conflict.
as an organization, do not approve, we don't make the approval. That was
No.
all done through the EPA because
Well,
of
it
the
wasn't-
designation.
It wasn't the EPA, it was the city is who manages the stormwater.
Okay, just, so we're not really involved in that.
Correct.
I just want to make sure that that's clear and that, that I understand it properly and have not misspoke or anything, that we have nothing more to do with that. Okay? And that's all I had. It was a good meeting, and I think I have a date for the next meeting here somewhere.
August
So,
20th. August 20th.
August 20th.
For the building and utilities or?
No, building
The
utilities,
19th,
The 19th.
the 19th, Monday.
19th.
Yeah.
Is August 19th, and I will plan on attending that.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right,
Move to adjourn.
not yet. We have public speakers next. Anybody on the internet wishing to,
Nobody online, Mr. Chairman.
anyone in the audience, Mr. Shamir? Welcome.
Good afternoon, good evening. I guess the question was raised about approval of connection and the connection of the pond to the 104-inch and into the lake. Actually, I've been speaking with the EPA and I've submitted a bunch of information to them. They were under the understanding that the site had been remediated to voluntary action program basis by ALERG as per their letter. Well, the site has never been remediated to that standard. There are issues with respect to that, and I didn't want to bring it up, but since it was brought up, I have to have this clarified. There are a number of issues. If you look at that site at the time of the Clean Water Act violation, that site has no sediment control, no ground cover. So at the time of all that rain that came during the month of April through May, there was no ground cover. There was no sediment control, and all that wash that moved through that site effectively carried the sediments with it. The issue and the point is there were no risk assessments conducted before that connection. Now, Mr. Gadar, as a professional engineer, evaluated an engineering document that dealt with hydraulics. He did not have the capacity or the knowledge base to do a risk assessment, which was required. You don't just connect something that may have the potential, that has the probable impact, and that's what we're talking about. It may not, but it could. So there were no root cause analysis that were conducted that would be a document that would say, the root cause does not show that the sediments washing off this site did not contain mercury or any other constituents. At the time of the Clean Water Act violation, that pond was hydraulically connected to Pond 002, which the sediments were effectively in a phase that could transfer from the pipe that was pumping, that was used to pump the water to Pond 002. So these are issues that we're discussing. And as a component of this, I've had discussions with the city, and this has gone back and forth. It took a little while to understand who gave the approval, because for the longest time, we were doing this thing on who actually gave the approval to connect. But I had a discussion with Mr. Ebert yesterday as a follow-up and as a subsequent issue that came up with the continuation of, am I timed out? Well, may I ask a question before I sit or not?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Ebert said that the reason that we are not able to get any communication or questions answered or presentation given to the city council was that yourself, Mr. Monroe, did not see fit that you, along with Verdantis, can come to the city and give the council an update on the status of the project. So my question to you, is that the situation? Because if that is, I think Avon Lake Regional Water is purchasing that property on behalf of the city. And we gave an approval as city council, but that approval was based on an understanding that we will be updated on the progress, and we're through the due diligence phase, and we'd like to have some questions answered and some discussion on the technical basis. Thank you.
Our due diligence period is not finished. It was extended by 45 days. So we are continuing our due diligence.
I understand, but an update is the norm. Update in this industry, giving an update to a council is no big deal. So if we have questions, we don't want to get to the tail end where we ask our questions and, oh, by the way, let's go back and collect some more information. It's a iterative process, and that dialogue, I think, is very helpful. And I think you guys are purchasing the property not for Avon Lake Regional Water, but you're purchasing it on behalf of the city for Avon Lake Regional Water.
We're purchasing it. If this is a utility function of purchasing property as Avon Lake Regional Water, and per our charter, we can acquire property, we can enter contracts on behalf of the city. And that's in essence what we're doing here. We're not buying the property for others. We're buying the property for Avon Lake Regional Water.
Okay, so it is you guys that don't want to have that dialogue. I just want to get clarity because
No, it has nothing to do with whether we want to or don't want to have dialogue. We are still collecting information. The information has not been presented to me in a full report. And once that's done, then we will meet.
Okay, I will bring that up in the next council meeting because that's a point of contention that we need to resolve.
That may be, but
Yeah.
we can have further dialogue.
Thank you. I do appreciate it.
In all these discussions on all these things, has the law director been involved with all their discussions thus far?
Yes, with through our attorney, Connie Carr.
Okay. So there is a flow of information. Some of it may still be privileged at this point, but there is some communication. And I know it's frustrating. It can be very, very frustrating not having all the answers. And it sounds to me, and this is just my personal opinion, when we tried to do the city a favor by Mr. Jack Adar doing something on behalf of the city, we should have said, no, thanks, hire somebody else.
No.
God bless. I mean, that's a bigger conflict. If you ask me, if you're purchasing the property and you're having your engineer look at it, that's a bigger conflict than having the designer review it and approve it.
And again, to that point, and I've told you this, Mr. Shamir, I consulted with legal. There was no conflict of interest.
Okay. Any further participation from the audience? I guess not.
I have one question.
Absolutely.
this has nothing to do with city council, but my condos, I live over in the Landings, and we have two buildings that have a very much higher water bill than the other two buildings. The other two are just about the same, but two of them are just at $300 a quarter more. And we don't know how to figure out if there's a leak, they're old. I'm sure they've got the original meters on it probably. What can we do?
What we can do is, if you want to coordinate the specific buildings with Mr. Urinich, staff, we will come out, work with maintenance to, try to determine if there is any leaks. A lot of times there may be leaky toilets, and some people think, a leaky toilet, how much could that be? It's more than people think.
Yeah,
but-
I actually got the strips and
The
everybody
strips?
tested, and
Okay.
they claim
Yeah.
that there aren't any leaking
We
toilets.
have done that. That's a service we provide for customers. So that would be
Okay.
no problem. Like I said, if you want to coordinate with Mr. Urinich.
Okay, great.
We'll take
Thank
care
you.
of that.
Thank you. All right, final item is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
I will second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are all adjourned.